Hey, hey.
Hey there. Thanks for everyone for joining. I guess we can get started. So last week we were talking about basically we're still in the process of just finalizing the 27. So in the last week we got a bunch of them merged in, which is good. I think these are going to be the last things before we cut the branch. I think there's maybe one or two more things, but yeah, I guess we can talk about that here. So yeah, I think the only outstanding thing that we're actually still debugging is what seems like a RocksDB performance regression while bootstrapping. I don't know if we have an answer on it yet. Um, and then there was also kind of discussion as to if it's still there, what would we do to proceed? So yeah, I guess we'll talk about all those things. Um, cool. So maybe it would be best to go for the testing and kind of get some results back on that. Bob, do you have a little bit of information on what you've seen on beta or whatever?
Yeah, so I shared the beta results, some testing I did. So we focused on legit blocks confirmation times, which remained very fast, even under heavy saturation. So that seems to work really well. I didn't do extensive testing, so I published like 1 million blocks and some legit blocks and just measured how fast they were confirming. And median duration was about 1 second, even when there was a backlog and when spam was ongoing. So which is kind of cool compared to previous versions where we had like 15 or 20 seconds minimum to have these priority blocks confirmed, and now we are around a second. So I think we met our goal there to really prioritize these legit blocks. Other than that, yeah, I focused on this bootstrapping issue that seems to be RocksDB related. I'm not very sure it's RocksDB related. So I have a local test case where I can reproduce this scenario where I don't sync to 100%, but it keeps the last like 100 to 10 to 100 blocks remain unsynced for a long time. But I see in my local test networks, at least, I see the same behavior on V26 sometimes, both with RocksDB and LMDB. And what I've been looking at, or what seems to work for me locally, is we have this blocking set and we have this priority set in the ascending bootstrapper. And when I clear these priorities, so those are the accounts that are prioritized to get blocks from. When I clear them regularly, the syncing to 100% is very fast in this local scenario. Obviously, this is not something that we can do on the live network because there are many blocks and we need these priorities. We can't just drop them all. But I think it hints to some kind of solution. So in my local testnet, I have 100,000 accounts, and in the end, I have like 100,000 priorities, but there are like 10 or 100 accounts missing one block. And if I just drop this priority set, if I clear it, erase it, it syncs fast. So that's what I'm investigating. And that's where I currently am. So it's just practical observation, no solution yet, but I'll share once I have something that works more or less.
That's interesting. So when there's 100,000 or so, when it's basically full, it tends to stall out. But then if you clear it down to zero, then it apparently proceeds. Am I understanding that right?
Yeah. but I have to clear it when we don't throttle it yet. So there is this other class that does some throttling. So we basically don't send out requests anymore for sending bootstrap messages. So I need to clear it before we hit this throttle, and then it works every time.
Okay.
Because that's one difference I saw between V26 and current V27 is that the throttle kicks in much quicker. So we stop requesting accounts or blocks earlier in the current version compared to V26. But I don't think we do it on purpose. So it's probably just some side effect of one change.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think we changed that, but I would agree. It sounds like it's just a circumstance. One thing that I noticed locally, so I've been playing a little bit with syncing a node here, and I noticed that actually if I clamp the bandwidth down, the bootstrapping speed drops a lot. So if I clamp it to a half a megabit per second, and this isn't using our internal bandwidth throttling. This is using the Linux kernel to bandwidth throttle, so it's very accurate, both up and down at a half a megabit. It slows down a lot. So yeah, it almost seems like we need to improve those algorithms a little bit, though.
Yeah,
I also don't think that we've touched this version, so I don't know if it's specifically a regression on that code. It probably is just all the other things you've changed, can change other stuff implicitly.
Yeah, I don't think it's an obvious regression. So the behavior in V26, locally is very similar. On the live network, it seems to work better, but yeah. But I wanted to ask something about the bandwidth. So what I've noticed is that when I look at the blocks that are pulled versus the blocks that are actually processed, it's like a factor of 5 to 10. So we are pulling 5 to 10 times more blocks than we are processing, which points to some maybe inefficiencies in the algorithm. So we are using far more bandwidth than if we just downloaded everything once and checked it.
Yeah. Yeah, I do remember that when we were testing. Oh, go ahead, Pietro.
I remember from the initial work on ascending bootstrapper, the ratio was much worse. So I remember one of the earliest improvements I made was reducing this ratio because we were pulling 10 or 20 or even more unnecessary blocks compared to what was actually processed. So there's definitely room for improvement. But it requires someone to dedicate themselves to just spending time and digging deep into the internals of the ascending bootstrapper.
Yeah. We have to remember that we've only basically done one pass of tuning this, and then I think we, for this entire version, we've been working on other things. So the version before, using legacy is far worse. It just didn't progress, but it was consuming bandwidth constantly. So I think we're on a good trend, even though it's not optimal. But yeah, it sounds like there might be some sort of throttling interaction. I kind of feel like the throttling is a more likely cause, like it gets in a circumstance where the throttle enables and then it can't get out of it.
Yeah, looking at the prod graphs, it still seems to work correctly. So when there is no live traffic, we have constant throttling. So no bootstrapping messages are sent around. And then if there is increased live traffic and some blocks are missed, the throttle reduces. So from what is seen on the graphs, there is no obvious regression, so it seems to work. It's just I've noticed that the throttle kicks in a bit quicker on this recent release compared to V26. Yeah, so as Piotr said, someone needs to spend time on it and dive deep into it to debug this. So it needs time.
Well, one other way to poke this, you're already poking it with clearing that priorities table, manually disabling the throttle, and see what that does. Because if you manually disable the throttle and then all of a sudden it syncs and resumes, that might actually be the issue rather than the priorities.
I tried that locally, but that didn't work.
Okay.
So just removing the throttle locally, I still have the same behavior. So it was really just clearing the priorities. And it's pretty obvious when I do a restart of my node, it instantly synced as well. So I had like for half an hour, it was sitting at 10 missing blocks, and I restarted and it was synced in a second in the local test network. So that's why I had some ideas. I tried with clearing unchecked, clearing the blocking, and then when I cleared these priorities, that's when I saw a difference in the speed of thinking.
I wonder if we're not evicting priorities correctly. Okay, interesting.
Yeah, maybe like I have like 100,000 priorities, and there are 10 accounts that need to be prioritized. So I'm not sure if these accounts are at the top or how this works if we cycle through all of the priorities we have, because they are never cleared. So it sits at the limit of what is configured. I think it's 250,000 by default.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I'll check that out after. I'm sure it's cleared somehow. I just don't remember how, but maybe, yeah, the algorithm gets in a spot where it can't evict anything and then can't insert new things. It sounds likely.
I don't think this is happening. From what I remember, what is probably happening is that both priority set and blocking set is bounded. So we don't perfectly track every blocked account, and because we don't perfectly track blocked accounts, then we insert accounts that are actually blocked into the priority set. So probably it's not lack of evicting, but too many things that are prioritized that shouldn't be. And that's just the result of having to work with bounded sets.
Gotcha.
It is possible to design dependency chasing algorithm. I remember I submitted an experimental branch for testing to Bob, and from what I remember, he said that our current algorithm was better, but maybe our testing wasn't perfect.
Yeah, I remember that branch, and when running it on live, it was slower, like from memory half time the speed compared to what we currently have. But testing was very limited. So just comparing how live performed on one specific computer.
Okay. Okay, yeah, let's talk about this a little bit more at the end as a matter of what we're going to do for this version and everything. Piotr, do you want to go over what you've been up to?
So I didn't work on any new features. I submitted a few bug fixes, a few smaller bug fixes. One problem that I can still observe is that when closing the node, whether it's a command line node or a wallet, sometimes the shutdown process gets stuck, and it seems to get stuck on on processing those legacy Bootstrap requests. I'm not sure what's going on with those legacy Bootstrap servers, but they seem to be blocking an orderly node shutdown sometimes.
Okay.
I observed the same thing, not with legacy Bootstrap, but just that the node sometimes didn't shut down properly, so I had to kill it to close it.
What do you mean with not with legacy boot? Like
I didn't look at the cause what was going on, so I just noticed that sometimes it wouldn't stop correctly.
okay. So I'm pretty sure this is the same reason, is the same cause. So I attached the debugger, and every time it was the legacy Bootstrap servers that just weren't stopping. I'm not actually sure how that's designed, whether the stop is actually called somewhere. I couldn't find it in the code. Yeah, but I also don't want to spend too much time working with this legacy Bootstrap. So that's my observation. Maybe someone has any idea.
Yeah, well, I mean, we were talking last time about just axing it for the next version. So maybe it's not worth any debugging time if we're just going to get rid of it.
Yeah, let's not stop nodes too often, and it shouldn't matter. And if it's a problem, then just disable this legacy bootstrapper should be fine. Anyway, that code is ugly, so it's hard to understand what's going on. And my other work was I looked into this telemetry extension PR that Ricky submitted. I did some cleanup of code that of things that I thought need improving. However, I still feel like there are problems with the way we are extending this telemetry, because it seems to me that the upgrade path works fine if v27 node sends telemetry to older node, so v27 to v26 message works fine. However, sending message from v26 to v27 seems to be broken, and I'm not sure how that was designed, whether future compatibility was designed into this message type or not. But I had some problems with that.
Yeah, thinking back, I'm pretty sure that's not an extendable message. I haven't actually touched it in a while, but I do remember quite a while ago people wanted to add things to it, and then the answer was we can't extend it easily. Yeah, so this is one of the messages I think would be really good for a wire format that allows optional fields. So we can add things, remove things.
I
don't know, but that requires new messages.
Yeah, I briefly looked into using flat buffers, for example. However, there is this warning there that flat buffers are not supposed to be like safe. You usually need trusted data to use flat buffers. So it's a shame that the current message type was designed with backwards compatibility, but not forwards. It seems very strange to do that. I think we can roll out very simply make our own extendable message type.
Yeah, we can do that too.
Yeah, so my approach, if I was designing a new message type for telemetry, would be to have a very, very simple format that we can ensure is safe, because that's the most important thing in designing message types. They need to be very, very, very simple, and so that we can verify they don't overflow or do anything stupid. And that's a bit harder when using flat buffers or those proto buffers.
Yeah, I'm gonna look into that. I wasn't aware flat buffers had that type of warning. Weird.
I'm pretty sure I read this. I didn't save that where I read this, but I'm pretty sure somewhere in their docs or on their site it was written.
Yeah, I guess it'd be one thing if it's like you can make it malformed and it'll, you can inject code. That would be obviously a serious issue. And then a different one would be like, there's array types in there. It's like, do they consider this a problem if somebody just like creates an infinitely sized array and just like tries to fill, like you're not limiting the amount of stuff that it's deserializing, because that would be easier to fix. You can bound that. Anyway, yeah, it's not something that we can really change right now. We need to add a new message type basically and figure out the strategy on how we want that formatted.
Yeah, it's definitely not going to v27 and this new message type. I hoped we can make this telemetry data work for v27 with this simple extension. But I don't know. Maybe Ricky can say a bit more about that. I'm not sure if he worked further on that.
Okay.
Did you test that it doesn't work from v27 to v26, so that the new messages will be broken on v26 nodes, or is it just a supposition?
So in the deserialization function, we always, when we extend it, we always assume that the fields are present. So if the fields are not present, then we throw an exception, and this exception causes the message to fail deserializing. There is no code that I could see that handles this case. So if we send a message from v27, it has additional fields, and we handle that. But we don't handle if a message is shorter than expected, which seems very weird to me. But also didn't spend that much time working on it.
In case we can't modify it now, could we just adjust this deserialization method so that from now on it would be forwards and backwards compatible?
Perhaps we could, but yeah, maybe someone needs to look into it.
Hi. I just wanted to say that I've been looking at this and I found the same thing as you, Piotr, that v26 messages are not seen in the telemetry, but v27 with the new telemetry data, it passes fine. So yeah, it's forward compatible, but not, it's backwards compatible, but not forwards. So, yeah, it's a bit strange, but I don't think this telemetry issue is that important. It's a nice to have feature. I'm much more concerned about the RocksDB and bootstrapping problem. I've been spending a lot of time trying to get my V27 node to work on RocksDB. I'm currently using V26.1 with RocksDB, and it works perfectly fine. If I stop it for like 1 hour and start it again, it will bootstrap and get up to date within, maybe 10, 15 minutes. But if I try using V27, it will slowly get behind. So from my perspective, it looks like V27 and RocksDB is not working. And we need to make sure that it either works or we just tell people not to use RocksDB from V27, because in my opinion, it's broken right now. But I'll look more into this. I'm currently testing, and trying to bisect it again. But it's a painstakingly slow process to build and try and let it run for like 30 minutes and see if it works or not. And sometimes you're just lucky. It seems like it just starts bootstrapping, and sometimes it's getting stuck. So there might be even some randomness to it.
Yeah, bisecting this is a horrible, tremendous amount of work. I can share a version with you that is working fine for me, where I clear these priorities regularly. You won't be able to bootstrap from scratch with it, but maybe just to look into if syncing, stopping for an hour and syncing again works fine with that version.
Yeah, I would love to do that.
Nice. Thanks, guys. And I think, so Gustav has been gone for a couple of weeks, but I think he's going to be back next week. So that'll be good. He said he's working on merging upstream currently. So I think he'll be caught up fairly soon, I hope. Actually, I forgot what his backlog was. But I know he's making a lot of progress, so it'll be good to have him back. So I think the remaining thing we should talk about is just getting when we want to make the V27 branch. So I think we have all, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we have all except for one item in there, the overhaul of the online reps class. It looks like that needs some rebasing. Is there anything else? And as far as the rebase, do you want me to do that, Piotr, or do you have time to do that? What are you thinking?
To be fair, I'm a bit busy right now, so.
Yeah, I can rebase it. That's fine. Do we have anything else that we want to do V27, or at least just before we make the branch? We can still put stuff in. We'll just have to cherry pick it.
Regarding this online reps change, do we think we want to include it? Like, I know there was some disagreement. There were some disagreements on it.
So did this solve any issue that we were having, or was this more of a code hygiene thing?
It's more of a code hygiene thing. It's a similar thing to. I remember doing this telemetry refactor some time ago, where this class just screamed bugs to me, and I just intuitively had to redo it. And this is similar, though probably not as critical, because back then we had some pretty serious bugs there. But now, It might go into v28 as a first thing.
Yeah, I think if we don't include it, because there is a small difference compared to current behavior apparently, we should still put it in v28 very quickly, because now it didn't diverge a lot. So, and if it just keeps sitting there because there are a lot of modified files, it will be harder to get in.
I would feel a little more comfortable putting it into v28 personally, because I think it's going to require, we need to really inspect this, because this is calculating our core quorum number. And if we're looking at other things, just getting these final things going, I don't know if we're giving it enough scrutiny. So if we move this to v28, and then kind of just do this at the beginning, along with, getting rid of the legacy bootstrap, I think that would be good. It's probably the more conservative way to go.
So the last thing remaining for the legacy bootstrap is the frontier scan. So the client side, is that correct? The server side is already there.
That's my understanding, yeah. I don't think anything's been done on the client side, but yeah, that's my understanding. Okay. Well, if that's the case, then I think we are free to make the v27 branch then. So, refresh my mind. So we need to manually make the branch. I can push that, and then we can build the first RC off of that.
Yeah, there is a GitHub process, so an action that creates this release branch from develop or from whatever branch you want. But I think we will create from develop.
Okay. Let's see. Is that the prepare release? And
Yeah,
then
that should be
we
it.
don't check, and we don't use repo from develop. Okay. Well, we can talk offline about this. Prepare. Is it the prepare release? It's not the build and deploy.
No, build and deploy is what is run constantly. So that you will run after prepare release. So you prepare the release, and then when the release branch is done, you can run build and deploy on that release branch.
Okay. Good. Okay. Excellent. Well, that's good news. We can get things moving along. Okay.
Yeah. So once we have that, we can continue with beta testing in this. So that basically starts the release candidate phase.
Excellent.
Did we bump the protocol version? I just remembered. Did we bump it?
Oh yeah, I didn't, so I can do that. Yeah, I'll do that before I push the button on this.
Okay. So I don't think that's necessary. It's just nice to have this if we ever need to filter nodes based on the protocol version. But every new field was backwards compatible, so it shouldn't be a problem.
Yeah, no, I think it'll be good to bump it. I think those numbers are basically free. There's a lot of them. So I will do that and then make the branch, and we can proceed.
One more thing about the release candidate branch. If you're basing it on develop, then I don't think the 255 votes are included. So we need to change that.
Do we want to break compatibility with v25. Is anything important on v25?
There are still some representatives, but it's like 2% of, or 2 or 3% of the online weight that is on v25, from what I remember.
Well, I think we should make it 255 by default, and add this flag to a node that disables it just in case. But realistically, even if a single representative is using 255, then other nodes will just rebroadcast those votes, and once we do it, there will be probably no way back, realistically, unless the whole network just decides to disable it.
But anybody could already do it now.
That's true. So I'm for enabling this 255 as a constant in the code, and just if someone is on v25, they should upgrade to v27 probably. Yeah.
Yeah, I think the only thing that D25, I think some people downgraded because they were having out of memory issues. But I think that was the wrong solution to it. It sounded like everyone that's had that issue didn't have a page file or a swap file enabled on their machine, which they should.
I mean, there is a bug in v26 that causes excessive memory usage that shouldn't be there. That v27 will fix. So if the people that had problems with v26 probably won't have problems with v27.
Yeah. What would be the alternative? Just enabling it in v27.1 a bit later? Or?
Ideally, I would do it with a canary block. But from what I remember, the code for parsing canary blocks wasn't that nice. So it was a bit of an ugly hack, from what I remember, every time a new canary block was added.
Yeah. It's not entirely easy to do that. And usually we did that for, what do we do? I mean, we have done it for things like this before. I don't know if we necessarily need it at this time. Also because you have to retrieve the block in order to enable it. So if you don't have the block, I guess we didn't do it for enabling generation rather than parsing, because we already have the parsing enabled.
Yeah, that was the whole point of including it in v26, so that the expectation was that the whole network will already be on v26, so we can upgrade to v20 to 255 easily. But well, not everyone upgraded, and now we have this dilemma. So
I generally think that we should be moving forward on it and enabling it. I don't really agree with the downgrading thing. I think it was a misdiagnosis or a wrong prognosis.
Yes. So the biggest representatives is Nano that is on v25 still, with 1% of vote weight, and the rest. So we are down to 2% of online weight that is on v25.
well, there was a lot of a lot of performance improvements compared to V25. So depeering those representatives won't be that painful. I say we should just enable it in code and move on. Change it to 255 for V27 and release it by default.
I've just seen a KuCoin representative still on V25 also, so I'm not sure if that is an issue or not.
I'll have to check. They might have been waiting for the V27. This is another reason why we want to get V27 going, is because some of these exchanges are waiting for the update. So we want to get moving and get this out to them. Okay, well, let's at least make the RC with the 255 enabled. And
another idea that I have, maybe we can set a date in the code that after this date we enable this 255 votes. So it's a simpler solution than canary block, and we just set a deadline for everyone to upgrade to 27, because there still needs to be this RC phase where some nodes on live will upgrade, but majority still stays on V20 on the previous version. What do you think about this approach?
It could. I mean, we already kind of have an implicit deadline, and that's when the quorum, or it's the stall quorum of nodes changes. And dates can work. I don't like to commit to them in the code. I just think it's risky, but it is simple.
But is it riskier than just enabling it? What's the risk?
So the problem that I see is that nodes rebroadcast votes, and V26 nodes will rebroadcast 255 votes indiscriminately, which was one of the overlooked parts of 255 vote support. So even if a single node starts is upgraded, then those V25 nodes will probably get depeared from live network, which is like, it shouldn't be a problem because V25 is long gone and we don't plan on supporting it anymore.
Yeah, I think V25 is too far back. We've made a lot of changes since then. It's over. When was the last time? A year now. Yeah, it's a classic software issue of how old do you support legacy, but also the problem, not really a problem, it's the nature of the technology is our network is live, and we need quorum, and we need the reps need to be keeping up to date on it. Otherwise the protocol ossifies and we can't change things. And we're not at that point. So
do we agree that we want to just set it in code for V27 as default 255 and encourage everyone to upgrade this way to at least V26?
I think so. I think when we get the RC out, some people will start playing with the RC, and maybe the V25 nodes will already see the reason why they need to update. And then we can get it done in advance.
But in case they get depeered, would they upgrade to v26 while we are in the release phase, in the RC phase? So let's say v25 wants to upgrade, so they need to upgrade twice then, in a short manner of time, once they get depeered.
Well, or they could go to the RC. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's just, I guess I didn't write it on Discord or try to hunt these guys down, but a page file, although not a great solution, the better solution is the code fixes that we have in v27. It does work. And it doesn't downgrade. There's a number of reasons why you don't want to downgrade to v25. You don't want to downgrade to any of the old versions. Like even if we didn't explicitly depeer some of the old versions, they just simply could not keep up with the network. And I think v25 is one of them. Like when the network's running full tilt now, I don't think v25 nodes would be able to keep up anyway. So I think it's a little bit of a moot point. They're going to get depeered one way or another. Okay. Well, let's do that. We'll do it for the RC. If there's some catastrophic issue, we're only telling the RC for basically node operators that are extremely active and monitoring. And if there's an issue, we can ask people to either downgrade again out of the RC, or we can put out a new RC that puts the default back to 12. So I think we have those two options. But I think moving forward is going to be our better option here. Okay, so two things, protocol version and the change of the default. And I can do those. They're not too hard. So no one else needs to be pulled off.
I don't think there will be something catastrophic because I'm running the 255 votes for like a week or two. And until now, no one has been depeered.
Perfect. Yeah, I'm glad we've been testing that.
Oh, it shouldn't be like one single node causes the whole network to depeer. It's probably the more nodes upgrade, the higher the chance of depeering. It's probably probabilistic. Okay. Anyway, everything sounds good. Can't wait to see the results.
Yeah,
excellent.
thanks.
Perfect. Thanks, guys. I don't see any other messages, so I think we're set for today. Thanks a lot. Bye, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.